if I'm going into a date, like scrutinizing and analyzing and looking for anything that will turn me off, just that vibe that I'm giving out is going to be so different than if I'm just authentic and relaxed.
If you go into it with that lens, you're not going to see as much magic as if you're completely curious and open and maybe going into those red and green flags with curiosity. A red flag is potential problem. Some people see that as an actual problem. It's a potential problem, something to watch out for.
Welcome to the Love Coach in My Pocket podcast. I'm Whitney Kobrin, a dating and relationship expert and love coach. This podcast is your go-to resource for lasting love. Get ready to feel uplifted, inspired, and empowered in your love life. Hello, welcome back to the Love Coach in My Pocket podcast. I'm your host, Whitney Kobrin, dating and relationship expert, somatic love coach, and your go-to guide for navigating modern love with confidence, clarity, and compassion. Today's episode, I am so excited about. We're going to be talking all about red flags, green flags, and yes, those confusing yellow flags. It's easy to get caught up in the dating advice echo chamber where everybody is just looking for danger, looking for those red flags, looking for a reason to cut someone off, to ghost them, and we can be focused on the wrong things. So don't get me wrong, protecting yourself is important, but we're constantly on patrol for these red flags. We're going to miss out on opportunities for magic and deep connection. That's why I'm so excited to be joined today by the brilliant Anastacia, a fellow coach at 3 Day Rule Matchmaking. Anastacia is a former VIP matchmaker turned dating and relationship coach, and now she's deepening her impact even further by studying to become a licensed therapist. She brings a wealth of wisdom from both matchmaking and the healing space. And I can't wait for you to hear all of her take on this topic. Anastacia lives in Milwaukee, Wisconsin with her partner and her amazing teenage daughter. And she's one of those people who just gets it when it comes to love, growth, and transformation. So let's get into it. Hi, Anastacia.
Hi, Whitney. Thanks for the wonderful introduction. And I loved how you talked about not wanting to stop magic when you don't meet somebody or you don't go out on the second date.
Yeah, even just that
You could
vibe,
miss.
right? If I'm going into a date, like scrutinizing and analyzing and looking for anything that will turn me off, just that vibe that I'm giving out is going to be so different than if I'm just authentic and relaxed. We've all been hurt. We want to protect ourselves. We build these walls up. So let's break this down. What do you think red flags and green flags really are? How would you define these?
Well, I want to comment on what you just said. You know, sometimes we go into that date with the mindset already based on whatever we know from their profile or whether you're working with a matchmaker. There's something there. You're like, oh, no, my ex played basketball. They were gone all the time. I can't handle that. So if you go into it with that lens, you're not going to see as much magic as if you're completely curious and open and maybe going into those red and green flags with curiosity.
Yeah. Or one of my favorites is my ex's name was Jeff. I can't date another Jeff. Nope. And they just rule someone out who could be compatible and a great match. I mean, call them by their middle name. Give them a cute nickname. Like, in the end, is that really going to matter that much?
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I had a client once as a matchmaker say she wouldn't date someone because their laugh was just like their ex. I mean, you know.
So let's talk about what really are red and green flags.
Well, I mean, I have a short definition that I use for it. A red flag is potential problem. Some people see that as an actual problem. It's a potential problem, something to watch out for, pay attention to. Green flags are more likely to be related to a healthy relationship pattern.
So let's start with naming some green flags, things that are actually good indicators that this person could be in a healthy relationship. And what's interesting about the green flags is that they're often quiet and steady and reveal themselves over time. And when you see somebody in different situations, under pressure, stressed, overwhelmed, tired, hungry, that's when, the darker part of people come out, but also when we have opportunities to shine.
Absolutely. And sometimes it's just a feeling on that date. You just feel really comfortable and you feel like you can be yourself. And you might not know the whys until later when you really process it.
All right. So we have 5 green flags that we want to share. Do you want to go with the first one?
Sure. I think we all know people that are argumentative, who want to prove they're right and don't want to admit their mistakes, don't want to work on making that better. So when someone can take ownership for something they did wrong, or maybe if they said something to offend you, which was not their intention, to take ownership for, oh, I said that wrong. I didn't mean to say that. That was, yeah, or I didn't realize, or thank you for telling me. I will work on that.
Yeah.
That's huge. And it's so rare if people are not self-aware and they haven't had some form of therapy or emotional growth from their past relationships.
I'm thinking about, somebody showing up late. And for some people, they might just automatically say that's a red flag. But I think we talked about this, you and I, before recording this, that there is so much nuance, right? And if somebody's late, it could very well be a red flag. Maybe this person is just disorganized, doesn't have a sense of time. They're going to drive you crazy throughout the relationship, especially if you are somebody that is very punctual. That could totally be a red flag. But it might be that some unforeseen circumstance happened, and it's also about how they handle it. So do they take ownership? Do they text you and say, I'm so sorry, I'm running this much late. Please get the table and or do they just waltz in 20 minutes later while you've been waiting for them, right? Do they take ownership? Do they acknowledge? Do they apologize?
Absolutely. This comes up in matchmaking all the time. This is one of the number one reasons why people do not give somebody a second date, another chance. But the people who text them and say, I'm parking right now. I'm so sorry. I'm almost there. And then when you show up in person, also talking about it. I am so sorry I kept you waiting. Did not foresee this. I left early. This is not a pattern. Whatever you do to try to make it better goes a long way. It's almost even better than showing up on time and not having that conversation because you've shown them that you can take accountability, that your actions were wrong, and you appreciate their time.
Yeah. In hospitality, when you make a mistake, it is actually an opportunity. If you stayed at a hotel and everything went smoothly, everything was fine, great, okay, you might give them 4 stars because you're like, oh, they're good, they're great, like nothing was outstanding. But if they mess something up, and then they make it up to you and go above and beyond, and you feel special.
That's everything.
For. Then you're like, this was a 5-star experience. They were amazing. Yeah. So I think that makes sense that even if you're late, you could actually turn it into an opportunity to show what a good communicator you are.
Absolutely.
It's not always what happens. It's what we do with it.
Yeah. How do we make it right? How do we acknowledge what we did? How do we listen, validate, empathize, all of those things?
That becomes especially important further down the line in the relationship, right?
Absolutely. Sustain a long-term, committed, loving relationship without good communication. I mean, people talk about my wife or my partner is my best friend. That's due to having really good communication, enjoying being around each other.
Yes. Yes. Because that honeymoon phase, it wears off, and you've got to be prepared for that and have that good communication, right? If you're just fighting, but the passion is awesome, watch out.
Absolutely. And then even going into a first date with that mentality of, can this person be my friend? First dates are not usually romantic if you don't know them. If you met from an app or a matchmaker, this is a stranger. Yeah. So going into it, looking for friendship qualities and not magic and fireworks yet. If there are no major red flags, which we'll get to later, yes, go on a second date when the nerves are gone and now you both know you want to see each other again. There's a lot of power in that. It feels totally different on a second date.
Yes. So green flag number 2 is when they respect your no and your boundaries without an emotional fallout. So this is so important, right? If you have a physical boundary, if you don't want to hold someone's hand, and they keep grabbing for it. And you're like, I said I didn't want to do that. So when they do respect your boundaries, they do respect your no. Major green flag.
I agree. That could be as simple as texting them during work and getting upset that they don't respond until after work. Everyone's job is different.
Or, yeah, don't call me after 10 p.m. If they're not respecting your boundaries, not good.
Do you want me to read the next one?
Sure.
They demonstrate consistent curiosity, not just chemistry. So I advise my clients who are dating through matchmaking after the date to go home and really think about, are you still curious to get to know them more? So that's the after fact. But during the date, especially with those things that you think might be a red flag or might be something that you don't like, really just lean into the curiosity. Tell me more about that. Oh, I could tell you I've had clients say, oh yeah, they go skydiving. And I told them I would never do that. That's crazy. So on a date, when they're telling you about their hobbies, you're not going to have the exact same passions and hobbies and interests. And a lot of times it's because you haven't tried it. You haven't learned about it. But if someone else loves it and they're lighting up to show your interest in it, I've never done that before. Tell me about why you love it so much. Or I could tell you really love that. Why is it exciting to you? I'm really scared to do that, but maybe I'll try it now. Tell me more. It goes such a long way, even if you're never going to do it. That's a way for you to learn more and for him to see that you value what he loves in life.
Yes. Yes. And then there's also those people that just only have one-sided conversation and keep talking and talking and talking and are not curious about you.
Right. Are they trying to understand you, or are they just trying to impress you by talking about all of their accomplishments, which is a typical pattern on first dates for some people. They tell you about their cars and their fancy house and their fancy job, and they don't ask you any questions. They don't try to find out who you are. And most of the time, people don't care about those things so much as who are you as a person.
I had a matchmaking client who went on a date, and the guy would not stop talking about Japan's railway system. And he just kept talking about trains in Japan and trains in Japan. But this green flag about curiosity is also a way to combat that, because she could say, wow, you're talking a lot about these trains. Why is that so important to you? Right? I'm curious.
Love it.
Why haven't you asked me a question? I'm curious. You can use curiosity in so many ways in dates, because again, like, it's a stranger, you don't know this person. All we can do is get to know them. And sometimes people don't know how to express themselves very well. And maybe that's not your person, but you want to at least get through the date and have the best time that you can have. So if I need to cut someone off and be like, that's great, but I really don't want to hear more about trains. Tell me more about blah, blah, blah. Like, you just butt in, change the conversation if you need to, right?
Absolutely. Having a balanced conversation is so important on a date. And it's part of what I do to prepare clients for that when they are out there in the dating world. And one of those dynamics, when the other person's talking and talking, generally there's someone who's talking a lot and one that's a listener. And so my clients that are listeners, I encourage them to go out of their comfort zone and say at some point when they take a breath, oh, I loved hearing all of these things about you. Okay, what do you want to know about me? Ask me anything. Like, do it in a really fun, flirty, sarcastic way without saying, are you ever going to ask me a question about me?
And right, I'm thinking about emotional regulation too, because if you get all annoyed and worked up and, you can't even think straight, you'll forget to answer that. So number 4 in our list of green flags is that they're willing to be uncomfortable to connect more deeply. So this is vulnerability, right? But this is a very specific way of saying it. They're willing to step out of the comfort zone, get a little uncomfortable if it facilitates a deeper connection, right? Some people, instead of using vulnerability in this way, they just trauma dump on you, and that's different. So some people will justify that by saying, well, you said I'm supposed to be vulnerable. And then they go into, well, my dad did this and my mom left. Or just saying things that you don't need to be saying on a first date, talking about exes. Do not talk about your ex and your past relationship, especially on a first date.
Rule number 1, do not talk about your exes on a first date.
I teach that we want to walk this balance of warmth and mystery. So warmth is friendliness, openness, sharing, connecting, leaning in. But if you're only that way, if you're too open, if you're too warm, people can get a little bit like they pull back a little. If you're leaning in, leaning in, leaning in, they can sort of pull back. Especially in the beginning, dating is like a dance, right? Let's stop playing games. It's not a game, it's a dance. You lean in a little, you lean back a little. You give them some sort of vulnerable story, and then you pull back and say, but the rest of that story is a bit much for a first date. You'll have to, yeah, we'll get into that later.
I love that. You have to be self-aware to be able to say that and to know when to stop sharing your story when it might be going too dark, deep, negative.
Yeah. Draw the line and say, but I'm not going to get into more of it. We'll save that for another day. But if they're not willing to open up at all, if they're not willing to get a little uncomfortable sharing something like what they're afraid of or initiating a hard conversation, we talked a lot about a first date, but this isn't just first date, right? Red flags,
Absolutely.
green flags are during that stage of getting to know people and the building of the relationship, right? So you want someone that can get a little uncomfortable, that can open up about what they're afraid of. They can speak up if something's bothering them and not hunker down and fester and stonewall and give you silent treatment. And again, taking ownership.
And bringing up those hard conversations, whether it's on a first date and you're nervous or you're dating for 3 months and now you're really going to go into the exes and your family history. If you're nervous and scared to talk about it, to say that out loud. Just everyone calms down when one person says, I'm feeling really nervous to have this conversation. Then the other person is taking care of you. Like, oh my gosh, babe, it's okay. I'm here and you could tell me anything. Even if they were scared about what you were going to say, now they're softened, now they're ready, and now you feel like a relief. And then you just say the thing. You just say it anyway. You can be nervous, you can be scared, you can be uncomfortable, and you can still do it anyway.
I love that. What's green flag number 5?
Number 5, they have a life that nourishes them outside the relationship. So this is really important. And one of the questions I used to ask on first dates was, tell me about your best friend. I wanted to hear those stories. I mean, I got so many amazing stories just from that one question. They're telling you about wild adventures. They're telling you about maybe some risque things that they shouldn't talk about, but they're really fun to hear, where they go, where they travel. And not everyone has a best friend, and sometimes their friends are all scattered, but what else are they doing in their life? Do they have a hobby? Whether it's video games, travel, being physically active, anything, so that they're not going to just put all their energy on you if you have an active and full life. It's really healthy to go into dating wanting a nice partner, but not needing a partner.
Yes. All right. So those green flags were accountability, being graceful with your nose, here are boundaries, respecting your boundaries without guilt tripping or sulking. 3, ongoing curiosity. They're interested in you. 4, embracing discomfort, vulnerability. And 5, having whole life vibes. So let's get into the red flags.
Okay. I find that a lot of people are looking for the red flags. Why has he been single for so long? Why is he divorced so many times? Why has he never been married? Why doesn't he have kids yet? Why does he have so many kids?
Yeah. And you don't know, right? Not every person that's been divorced twice falls under the same category of dateable, undateable, right? We need to be conscious, present, and look at each person as an individual.
Absolutely. I see people who have been married before as an amazing opportunity to be a great partner again, because they've gone through so much personal growth from sharing their space with someone else, communicating, going through conflict, compromising, making decisions together. And if it didn't work out, there are a million reasons why it didn't work out. It doesn't mean there's anything wrong with them. A lot of people have long-term relationships that are not marriage and they don't work out at the end. They move on to someone else and are happier each time, because hopefully you're growing and maturing and learning more about yourself and your communication along the way.
So, we ready for this?
Let's do it.
All right. So, red flag if they seem more interested in the idea of you than an actual partnership with you. So this can look like fetishizing somebody or just looking at them as a trophy or security. And there may be bits of that but we want our partners to be interested in us and our whole picture, right? So this is a red flag if they're constantly referring to like the general idea of you or some category that you fit into.
And would you say that this red flag is also resembling the love bombing that happens sometimes when they're just so excited to be in a relationship and they just put all of their hopes and dreams on this one person that they don't even know yet, just assuming you're
Oh
my
yeah,
person, this is
definitely.
it.
Yeah, this can also
Mm-hmm.
be like jumping in too fast, right? I call that the flame out when it's like
Mm.
really awesome in the beginning. And maybe that's one sided, maybe it's both. But either way, when we jump all in 2 feet first, before you know someone, really, it doesn't usually work out. It can. There's always that story of someone that married after 2 weeks they got married and they're still together. Like every once in a while it works out, but let's just be honest, it doesn't usually work out.
Correct. Yes.
So if they're like first date, they're like, oh my God, I can't believe I found you. You're the best thing. You're so amazing. Yeah.
You're my
That's,
soulmate.
yeah. If they say like, I think you're really cool and you could be my soulmate, that's okay. Like they're not delusional about it. They're saying there's a possibility. I
Lean
think
into that. Tell me more.
yes.
I like what you're saying.
Curiosity saved the relationship.
Yes, yes, yes.
What's another red flag?
Another one is someone who has a hard time with your feelings. You share you're sad about something that happened that related to you, or that made you angry and you want to know more. Coming to somebody with your feelings and having them stop it by trying to over rationalize it, putting the blame back on you, intellectualizing it instead of just acknowledging this is a feeling, even if there's no truth in it. Even if you didn't mean that thing that they think it meant, they still felt how they felt. They feel how they feel. And so showing up for somebody and being able to sit with them and hear it, hearing the hard stuff and to say, I'm sorry.
Yeah. It's so nice when somebody can understand and validate your feelings, even if they don't understand, just to
Right.
validate it instead of brushing it off.
And most times I find people can't really hear the other side of it until they get that first. I am so sorry. I want to know more about that. That was not my intention. Or if you know about it and you know why, go ahead and explain it later. But first, sit with them, hug them, hold them. And are you ready? Are you ready to hear some more from me?
I actually had a boyfriend say to me, why don't you just squish down all your feelings like I do?
Oh,
I was like,
wow.
and I'd been dating him for a year. This
Oh.
relates to another topic that you and I were discussing before this about how we often go after someone just like our parent, right? And this was the guy for me that was like my dad. And I couldn't understand it at first why I was so drawn to him. And I would just do anything and bend over backwards and be very accommodating. And then I realized he's just not there. Yeah, my dad wasn't there. And I've since healed my relationship with my dad. Dad, if you're listening, I love you. Thank you. We have a good relationship now. And so we often attract a partner that has a similar relationship to the wounding that we experienced as a child. And we will keep doing that until that's healed. So if you come out of your childhood with those wounds healed, you can be ready for a healthy relationship. But if it's not, then you got to go through the relationship in order to address that wound, heal it. And sometimes it will work out with those partners, but often it's like you're just with them long enough to learn the lesson and then find someone new that feels uncomfortable at first, right? It's not as familiar because it's not the same old pattern you're used to, but it's better.
Absolutely. And these red flags, Whitney and I both don't really believe there are a lot of rules that you need to follow with these flags. Leaning more into the curiosity of it is good because we all know there are a lot of people that have a hard time with feelings. It makes them really nervous. They lean back. They literally sometimes walk a step back because they're scared of it. And I think it's because it's bringing up their unresolved feelings, things that they have not processed and shared. And it brings them back into this shame and blame. And they're a bad person if you feel bad about something they said versus I can really hear that and I can show it for you. And this is hard for me to hear, but Here's what happened and let's work on this. So I wouldn't necessarily cut someone off and not continue dating them, but try to learn more. Is this a consistent pattern over months versus on date 1, 2, or 3? That's not going to be the whole picture.
I have so many things popping up, but let's stick to
so many. We could do a podcast on each one of these.
So red flag number 3 is that your boundaries are inconvenient to them, and yet their boundaries are set in stone.
One boundary that someone might have is the cadence of texting. Not texting me when I'm at work, it's distracting, or I can't respond to you and then I feel bad, or texting or calling after 9 p.m. because if I get too excited and it's hard for me to go to sleep.
So what about the person that feels like they need to hear from somebody every day or multiple times a day? Is that needy? Is that too demanding? Or is that fair? How do you see that as a boundary?
I don't see it with a judgment lens. I see it as what they want. And I encourage my clients to talk about this once they, have had a few dates and they're considered dating. How often do you want to be communicating? How often do you want to have phone calls, texts? Just recently, a client brought up to me that the woman he's been dating for 4 months, she said, your texts are boring. Can you write something about beautiful or I miss you? And he's like, oh, okay. Yeah, I'm not really a big texter. Sure. Yeah, I can do that. He handled it so well. I was so proud of him. So many people would get offended that they're not doing it right, but he was in a long-term relationship for 40 years. They weren't texting. They were living in the same house together. Everyone has different expectations of this. And instead of critiquing them that they're doing it wrong, tell them how to do it right.
I love
that. So it's simple.
We teach people how to treat us, right?
Yes.
We're not training a puppy dog. We're just teaching people what our boundaries are, our preferences, what we need. And then, if the two of you can't agree on the boundaries, then maybe you're not compatible.
Absolutely. But you will know that over time, not on date 1, 2, or 3.
Yes. All right. Red flag number 4.
Number 4. Well, this is kind of similar vein. They want all access to your life all the time. So yes, this would be more like the love bombing and just not being respectful of your time and the life that you already have. You have a life and it's really healthy to do things apart. And it's really great to have time to miss each other as well and to take trips with your friends and they take trips with their friends and jealousy. And these are things to pay attention to, not necessarily to write someone off, but to try to learn more about it. What is it about for them? Are they feeling abandoned, or did their last girlfriend travel all the time and that was hard for them? Where is it coming from?
Yeah. The word insecurity is coming up in my mind. Just, going into dating while you're still feeling very insecure is really difficult. It will be really challenging for you, for your partner, for everyone. So the more we can become secure in ourselves and confident and know who we are and feel good about that, the easier this gets. But when someone is, demanding too much too soon, it is often a red flag. Demanding intimacy, right? If they want to just ask for photos and all of that. A funny piece of advice that I give is if someone says, send me nudes, to get a swatch of different paint colors that are all like nude tone colors and send it to them. But Matthew Hussey taught me something years ago that you can say, you must be confusing the me now with the me 6 months from now that knows you and is comfortable with you.
Love that. That's perfect. And leading with humor when you're asked something uncomfortable and you don't want to answer it, make up something really funny that's very clearly not the answer and say, okay, what else can we talk about? Being sassy, cute, funny, bossy in a fun way is better than, I'm not going to talk about that with you. That can come across as really defensive and rude, even if what they said was rude. Now the dynamic is just really awkward. And so humor and smiling and laughing, and that's a crazy question. I've never heard that before. Let's move on to something else. Whatever you can do to make it fun.
When you're dating, people will test your boundaries. Just because somebody tests it doesn't mean they're a horrible person every single time. Maybe some of them, certain things, but they're testing. So you got to be prepared for that and know how to respond and set your limit, set your boundary. If they're pushing into your space, you set your boundary, and then the both of you know where you stand.
Absolutely. And, you said something interesting, know how to respond ahead of time, expect it, see it coming, but also know when to say, I did not see that coming. I have no idea how to respond to you.
I love it. I love the honesty, right? We need more honesty in dating these days.
And I see this with my clients that are fees and beyond. They're more comfortable being their authentic selves because they don't want to start out a relationship like they did in their 20s where they're pretending to be what the other person wants or pretending to be what they think the other person wants from them. They want to be who they are so they're not wasting their time. And that doesn't mean being rude and completely honest all the time by being rude and mean, but showing who you are, because if they don't respond to that, that means that's not your person. So you both need to go and find someone else.
And then red flag number 5 brings up curiosity again. We can't emphasize enough how important it is to be curious. Remember that saying, when you assume you make an ass out of you and me? That's what most people are doing, especially in the very early stages of dating and online dating. They see one thing or hear one thing and they make all these assumptions about the person rather than being curious. So red flag number 5 is that they're not curious about your inner world. So this is someone that they might seem shy at first, but over time you realize they're still not opening up. They're still not asking about you, about your feelings, about your history. They're just kind of asking superficial questions or logistical questions. And this often means that they're not equipped for emotional connection, right? This is the emotionally unavailable person that just wants someone to hang out with. And so if they're not interested in your inner world and curious about that.
Absolutely. And I also see curiosity as like the antidote to judgment. A lot of people go into dates and going into life with people judging them because they're doing something that they personally don't do. Instead of, oh, I'm curious why you do it that way. I've never thought about brushing my teeth that way. Or whatever the thing is, we all are in our same patterns, and we grew up in our family doing our things. And the older you get, the more you see how everyone does it a different way.
There was actually a research team that came up with, I think it was, there's 264 different ways to load a dishwasher, at least.
That's a lot. And how many times have you heard people say, no, you're doing it wrong?
That's an inside joke. In my whole family, we always go, oh, you're doing it wrong. Because it's just like, it's like the thing that you want to hear the least. Like nobody likes to hear that.
We made it through our list.
We did.
Red flags and green flags. And also I want to share that we work together at this incredible company, a relationship wellness company called 3 Day Rule. They do matchmaking, coaching. We're one of the coaches, or we're two of the coaches at this company. And it's really amazing to be a part of getting these clients really prepared before they start going out on dates and supporting them through that.
Yes. I've worked for a couple of different matchmaking companies, and I love how 3 Day Rule does it because they don't just operate in a silo. You have a coach, you have a photographer to get good pictures, you have your matchmaker, you have a recruiting team that's out looking for matches for you, both in person and online. And so it all comes together. You know, people talk about matchmaking being expensive, and we know about Millionaire Matchmaker, and we even have a package with 3 Day Rule that's $1 million, but it doesn't have to be that much. It is within the affordable range for a lot of people, and matchmaking has really made a comeback because people are frustrated and often don't have the time and energy to go through so many people to meet their person. Or they don't have the access. They're not in the same room. And we have matchmakers and recruiters that are in the same room with really high quality people that you would want to meet that maybe aren't online.
Or they're the same people online, but they're actually getting them on the screen and talking to them and kind of having that first date for you and asking all of those uncomfortable questions that we don't want you to have to do on your first date, so that you get this nice report of you're compatible in this way, and this way, and this way, and this way. And then you both can get more excited and go on the date and just really lean into curiosity, like we've been talking about, and just see how it feels. You don't need to make it an interview. See how it feels.
How do you feel on this date with this
Mm-hmm.
person? How do you feel afterwards? It's the most important question, right?
Mm-hmm.
Someone could be great on paper and you just feel like tense and yucky and not good in their energy. That's
Mm-hmm.
important to know. And same
Mm-hmm.
vice versa. They might be totally different than what you pictured, but yet you're laughing, you're relaxed, you're open, you're having fun, you're enjoying it. I love it.
And since you mentioned $1 million packages, I'll just say the prices start at $5,900. So we'll just put that in there.
Yes. And it is a whole package, right? You get matches, you get
Absolutely.
coaching, you get all
Mm-hmm.
of this. So I've seen it change lives and I've seen the marriages and the relationships that come out of it. It's
Mm-hmm.
so awesome.
Yeah, it
So
is.
this was fun. Thank you so much, Anastacia.
Well, it was so great talking to you in this way. I love working together with you and collaborating. And yeah, hope we can do some more.
So look out for those red flags, but don't be too focused on them. Have some conscious understanding of nuance and be curious and also pay attention to those green flags.
Brilliantly said.
All right. We'll see you next time on the Love Coach in My Pocket podcast.
Bye.
Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Love Coach in My Pocket, where we talk about love, dating, relationships, healing, and all sorts of topics related to these. Don't forget also to download the Love Coach in My Pocket app from the App Store for tons of free resources to support you on your journey.